All right, the first thing we're going to talk about and what this video is going to cover is the automatic settlement building system, which is kind of the core feature of Rise of the Commonwealth, and I think why a lot of you are here. So the system, before I get into it, has a lot of depth to it, but it can be used as simply as grabbing one of your companions in workshop mode and assigning them to a city planner's desk. And it can be used that simply. But there's a lot more depth to it, and I want to go into a lot of the technicals so that you guys can see how this system works and know when things are working the way they're supposed to and things that are buggy, because it can be, some of the things that happen based on the engine can seem a little odd, and I want to make sure you guys understand what's going on under the hood. So the first thing I showed you in the quick start video was assigning a leader by going to the city plan. So that's one way you can do it. You can also manually assign them in workshop mode. The nice thing about this assign city leader here is that it will find even your leaders, your companions that are in other settlements. So now you'll notice I keep saying leader, and I'm trying not to say just companion. And that's because the system will be expandable when the API toolkit comes out, so that other companions and even unique NPCs in the game or entirely new NPCs will be able to be introduced as leaders that you can recruit and apply as leaders of these settlements. So by default, just the vanilla and DLC companions that Bethesda created are assignable as leaders, and in the future you'll be able to have tons more because any mod author will be able to add additional to the system. So the leader serves a couple of purposes. One, they're going to take the job of the city planner, so they'll be assigned to the city planner's desk. They can still have a residential plot. They can still give a bed, and they will build those things themselves if you allow them to build the settlement. Excuse me. And the reason I say allow them to build the settlement is because one of the first patches is going to add a trait system so that whoever the leader of your settlement is will provide some bonuses to that settlement. So this leadership system will work with or without the city plans. But primarily their purpose right now is to allow the city plan system. So we're going to choose make leader here, and then you're going to get a prompt asking if you want them to start scrap and build everything. Now, if you don't have any settlers yet, it won't allow you to build. You do need to have some settlers in the settlement, but as soon as you throw down a beacon, a couple of settlers will appear within a few seconds. So to start out, not only do you want to city planner's desk, but throw up a beacon, and then your some settlers will arrive so that you can get this started. Even just one settler is enough to start building. All right, so spoiler incoming. Hopefully you've gotten a chance to go see it. So while this is happening, I'm kind of going to talk about what's going on in the background. So after you choose the yes, tear it down, Sim Settlements will tell the settlers to go scrap all of the things you've built. They'll also scrap anything that's linked, and those are things that you could normally pick up in workshop mode, but that were already there when you got to the settlement. Now, right away, I want to show you there's going to be something happening that is an engine problem. So you guys know it's not a bug. This is just something that the engine does. You're going to see some models start flickering in a second. And so one of the things Sim Settlements does is restores anything you scrapped that we used in the design. And you're going to see it happen in just a second here. I know there's some items that cause it right away. But what that happens is if you see a bunch of models kind of flicker, like right there, where all those roofs kind of changed into a different texture, that is due to the way LOD models are handled. That should only happen during this foundation level building, and that's as the settlers are restoring things that you might have scrapped that we needed for the build. Those cause the engine to not like it. They don't like loading models with LODs in real time, so that causes all that flickering. So that's not a bug, that's just an engine quirk that we're triggering. So now you'll see that they're starting to place various things all around. Now this is what we call the foundation level. If this were a plot, it would be a level 0. So this is essentially laying down a skeleton for the settlement for a couple of reasons. One is we've made sure that these settlements are fully pathable. We had people go through by hand and make sure that the settlers could reach the various plots and beds and other things that we laid out for them. And then this also gives you an idea of what area the settlers are going to be using, so that if you want to add things to the build, you can do so, and you'll know that you're not going to be covering up the stuff they'll be building in the future. So this whole system is pre-planned, but all of the plot placement is dynamic so that the settlers can place plots. They'll still use any of your add-on pack buildings, and the order that they build them is going to be determined partially on the needs of the settlement. So if they're short on food, they're going to focus on farms first. If they're short on defense, they're going to focus on martial plots. etc. So this whole foundation level isn't indicative of what the settlement's going to look like. It's just giving it kind of a rough skeleton. So this is kind of a freebie build that happens right away. You don't have to give them any materials or anything. They just do this as kind of a setup phase. So after this foundation level is complete, the settlers will start moving in. They'll start building plots, they'll start building beds, they'll start opening stores. They'll even start placing interior plots inside any of the structures that already existed before you started with the settlement. So like in the sanctuary, a lot of these houses, these settlers will move into and take advantage of the new interior plots, which will be covered in detail. Some of the quirks and things about using interior plots will be covered in one of the next videos. So the foundation level is very important, and it's like I said, it's not supposed to represent what the settlement's going to look like. So if you're expecting a cool looking city like you saw in some of the trailers, don't worry, it's coming. And you'll get to the upgrades video. That's one of the next ones that will show you some of the steps you need to do to make sure that these cities upgrade. So this foundation level is now complete for this, and I'm going to start getting prompts in a second that you normally get from sim settlements, those ones that come up that tell you a settler has started building something. If you have those turned off, just know that your settlers, if you were to wander around here, you're going to find them to start building plots on their own. You don't have to place any more plots even in these builds if you don't want to. Though you're welcome to take the plots the settlers build and swap them out for different types, or move them. You're welcome to do whatever you like. Just know that the settlers, when they upgrade, may ignore your placement or movement and build things kind of intersecting with them. So be warned that if you're going to build inside the area that they've kind of taken over with this foundation level, they might cover up your stuff. But after this foundation level is built, they will never scrap anything you build again. So you're free to add as much as you want to the settlement. Now, if you're not into building at all and you want to use this system so that you can be free of building, you can still do that. You can contribute to the settlement in two ways. One is I would recommend everybody pick up the local leader perk. If you're not into charisma builds, there's plenty of mods out there to allow you to cheat that one perk so that you can gain access to it for free without having to have high charisma. And I will also be adding a sim settlemency type method to unlock that perk in the future. But for right now, I would just grab a cheat mod if you're not interested in having it on your character. And that's because with the 3.0 patch, you can now set up supply lines that will actually fill the meters for your settlers. So you'll be able to contribute. Now, why is that important? So when we came at Rise of the Commonwealth, the goal was to look at settlements as a whole thing. We wanted to see that the whole game world made sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense for every single city or little tiny settlement to have to be self-sufficient. There's trade. They should be able to set up a centralized farming area or a dedicated water purification plant where they could supply multiple settlements. So we wanted to encourage that, and a lot of these city designs are designed with that in mind. So some of the settlements have less or no food, or some of them have very little water, and that's the only contribution you have to do is help them fill up these meters so that they can be a prosperous city. And so not only should you set up some provisioners between the settlements, but if you don't want to do that, or if that's not quite enough, you can also donate your extra supplies, which that will be covered in another video. So you can donate supplies so that you can keep playing the game. You can pack rat and grab things, and if you want to use my other mod, salvage beacons, it'll make it even easier for you to do that, so you can grab onto piles of stuff and send them around to the different settlements. So this foundation level gets you started. The settlers are moving in. You can see these messages popping up in the corner. And that's the gist of it. So these settlers are going to build all of this on their own. So it's fun to explore right from the get-go. You can go see what they're building right away. And then as more settlers move in from the recruitment beacon, which we did place a recruitment beacon automatically in the builds so that settlers will keep coming in, those new settlers who come in will also continue to build new things. And as you can see on the left, the meters are starting to fill, the jobs are up, the homes are up, and now the food's starting to creep up as they're building farms. So a lot of them will take care of all of their needs on their own, and then you are welcome to contribute however you like, whether it be building, supply lines, or donations, or a combination of each to help them reach their needs, because those needs are important for the upgrade system, which you'll cover in one of these next videos. Okay, guys, hopefully that explains everything about this system. I hope if I missed anything, please ask questions on the forums, and I'll be happy to give you more details. But otherwise, guys, the next video is going to talk about upgrades and how you can make sure these cities reach their maximum potential.